Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar series hosted by American Hindu Coalition. So, American Hindu Coalition, as you know, is a nonpartisan advocacy organization with the goal to promote a shared commitment of American Hindus to continually strengthen our American Republic. AHC basically works towards to promote the interests of American Hindus and American who subscribe to Hindu enlightenment principles in the field of politics, public policy, legislation, and regulation. It aims to build a public awareness of the issues facing the American Hindus and Americans who subscribe to the, again, Hindu enlightenment principles. AHC works to uphold the shared commitment of American Hindus for a more prosperous, safer, and stronger America through limited government and a strong national defense platform. As you all know, AHC hosts a series of conferences, interactive workshops, grassroots and media events to engage the public at large and undertake issues advocacy as well as public discourse with a unique voice for innovative solutions. And today's webinar is one such in the series where we have taken up this humanitarian crisis, very violent situation that is unfolding in Manipur, the northeastern state of India, over the last 2.5 months. So why is AHC interested in this? Because this is directly affecting the Hindu lives, the Hindus living in the Manipur state. And since the European Union has jumped in the internal affairs of this sovereign country, we are sure America will not be left untouched. So this is the responsibility of AHC to bring out the situation, current situation, and for public awareness, and to discern facts from fiction. To that effect, we have our panelist joining us today. I'll just go by the names as they appear on my screen. Mr. Roshan Ngangom, Purnima Nath, John Prabhudas, and Ajay Shah. So before we delve into their introductions and details, how it is, and listen to their perspectives, I would like to briefly give a very brief introduction why we pick up Manipur and why this crisis has come to light and what's going on. So Manipur is one of the 8 northeastern states. Just to give a little background of India, it's a very beautiful place, but since May 3rd, the scene at ground are very ugly and I would say not very pleasing. So there is this conflict which erupted recently in the past months between 2 major communities, the Meitei communities that lives in the valley of the state and the Kuki community settled in the ground hills, settled in the upper hills of the state. And to that effect, there is also another Naga community. And Northeast has always been part of India, and these are tribal societies. So there have been conflicts between insurgency after British took over India. The governments failed to control the insurgencies, and they were kind of like not included in the mainstream India. So, but I will take your perspectives on that and what's the situation here and where do we stand and how can we work together to build trust and bring peace back to the beautiful land. So I would go with Purnima Nath. So Purnima is a founder, president, and chairwoman of Spindle India, a non-profit organization. She is the creator of popular festival in Wisconsin, India Fest Wisconsin, spreading India's incredible diversity, the ancient culture of this only living continuous civilization that we all take pride in. Purnima contested in elections in America. Purnima is a graduate and obtained an MBA from prestigious Northwestern University, Kellogg School of Management. Purnima is an engineer and brings in decades of corporate experience. She speaks and writes on geopolitics, foreign affairs, and national security. Purnima, I'll briefly introduce all the speakers and then we'll come back one by one. So Welcome to the forum.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Next in line is Ajay Shah. Ajay Shah, he started as a Karyakarta of Akhil Bharatiya Vidya Parishad in Mumbai. He has been a Karyakarta of World Hindu Council of America, which we called Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America, VHPA, since 1984. He currently serves as the president of VHPA. Ajay co-founded the Hindu Students Council and the HinduNet. He is the founder and convener of VHPA initiatives, American Hindus Against Defamation, AHAD, and Hindu Pact. He has been the editor of Hindu Vishwa, the magazine published by VHPA. He serves on the board of trustees of the Hindu University of America. Ajay is also an adjunct professor at the Amrita University. Welcome, Ajay.
Thank you.
Next on the panel, we have Roshan Ngangom. He is a member of the Meitei diaspora from Manipur. And as I told, Meiteis are Hindus and they live in the valley part of Manipur. He has lived in Houston, Texas for the last 25 years. He's an IT professional and a small business owner. He's a member of the board of directors of the recently formed Association of Meiteis in the Americas, AMA. So welcome, Roshanji. Next, we have John Prabhudas with us. John Prabhudas is, as probably folks from DC would know him very well. So he is the chairman of the board of Federation of Indian American Christian Organizations, FIACONA, which is an umbrella organization representing the voices of 1 million plus Indian American Christians since 2000 in Washington, DC. So now I would request Roshan, since he is a Meitei and he belongs to the community engaged in conflict in this beautiful state, to give the perspective, what's going on the ground, what is expected from the government. Is the government working? Because why the foreign forces have to intervene, like the European Union took out the resolution. So is there a need for that? And how can peace be brought back in the state? To you, Roshan.
Well, good morning, everyone. What has unfolded in Manipur in the last 80 days is quite unfortunate and at the same time quite unexpected. I mean, Manipur was, in the eyes of many, was going in the right direction in the past few years. And I was there just a couple of weeks before everything kind of went berserk on May the 3rd. And during my stay, Manipur seemed to be thriving, right? And the businesses were thriving, people were having this positive vibe. And, after long periods of insurgencies and turmoil in the state, Manipur seemed to be heading in the right direction. And in fact, my last outing was a lunch organized by a few friends in a cafe that was actually by a cookie community up in the hills. So, and the experience or the stay was quite pleasant and quite, I would say, like, I had hopes that it would even go further. So, and within a couple of weeks of me returning to the US, we watched in horror and quite like we were shocked to see what unfolded. And at least for the first 1 week or so, we didn't know what just happened, right? As a Meitei community, we didn't know how to respond. We didn't have the information as to what actually happened because of the lack of information flowing out from Manipur due to the ban. But again, we've learned quite a bit in the last 80 days or so about what actually happened, what are the catalysts, what the government is doing or maybe not doing, and so on and so forth. And during this time, we kind of like start to acknowledge the fact that there has always been this underlying tension within the communities that exist in Manipur, because of the ethnical differences. I mean, there are about 35 tribes that coexisted for a very long time. Those tribes could be, as you said earlier, could be grouped as Nagas, Kukis, and the Meiteis. So it's a very complex society, and there's always this underlying tension between the communities, and there has been conflicts between the communities in the past, right? So um, and as I said, even within the Meiteis, right? I mean, it's not all Meiteis are Hindus. Just to educate everybody, I guess. There are Meitei Hindus, there are Meitei Pangals who are Muslims, there are Meitei Christians who, I mean, they're about 150,000 in number, and Sanamahis, who are the Meiteis who followed the religion that existed before the conversion to Hindus. So talking about this conflicts, if you look at the past 30 years or so, from today, there have been many conflicts, and in the 90s, there was this very bloody conflict that almost lasted a whole decade of the 90s between the Kukis and the Nagas, and in which about more than 1,000 people lost their lives, and about 100,000 people got displaced. And it reached the point where in one day there was about 100 plus death in the Kuki community when the NSC and IM went on the rampage to wiping out village after village. And in that situation, the Meiteis had to intervene and become the mediator to kind of like end the violence. And still there is still tension, underlying tension between the two communities. And even within the Kuki communities, there was also another really bloody conflict. The Tado-speaking Kukis and the Paites, another Kuki sub-tribe, fought a bloody war over, I would say, land in 97, 98, in which 350 lives were lost and 13,000 people got displaced. And there was also a Meitei and the Meitei Pangals, who are the Muslims. They fought for a few days after supposedly arms deal went wrong in one of the Muslim communities, and that kind of escalated into a communal clash between the two communities. But what is unprecedented about this specific conflict is the fact that in the last 80 days, violence has gone on nonstop. And that is unprecedented in the fact that in most of the other ones that I just described, it was either sporadic, even though it was a decade-long Naga-Kuki conflict, the violence was sporadic. But in this, it has gone on for 80 days without any stoppage. And that is the most surprising and unprecedented thing about this violence. And it is highly suspected that militants from across the border in Myanmar, who are from the Chin Kuki community, have infiltrated with sophisticated weapons and entered the conflict. So there's still a lot of exchange of fires between the valley and the hills in the periphery of the Imphal Valley. And this is quite disturbing to many of us who are abroad and to the people of Manipur. And what I feel is that we need to end this violence as soon as possible so that peace can return, democratic talks can happen, and the healing can start. So that's my perspective of the current conflict at this point. And I hope the concerned authorities are listening to this and hope they can accelerate this process so that the suffering of the people can stop as soon as possible from both sides.
Thank you, Roshan, for sharing that with us. So, as we have heard or read in the news, how it started on May 3rd is some are saying that after the judicial order, to give a little more background on that, These Meiteis, they live in the valley, and the cookies were brought in by the British long time back from Myanmar, that time Burma, from the Kukichin mountains, and settled at the foothills so that they can prevent the Meitei community from the existing Naga tribes who lived in the hills. So cookies were basically friends or got in there to support and save the Meiteis from Naga tribes. And so far, now since the border between India and Myanmar is very porous, so more and more Kukishin, these tribals are coming in, as Roshan suggested, and there is a continuous, unbroken this spate of violence. So important is who is feeding and fueling this violence in the state. From where are the weapons coming in? Who is so? I believe this open border. It's very porous. There is no fencing or anything like. It's a different situation between India and Pakistan, but from this porous border, these Kukishans, the militia, are like the terrorists. Now they are illegal migrants. They are coming in. Cookies are kind of like a part of India, because even going back, the latest, the Raja or the ruler had cookie bodyguards. The king was a Meitei and he had cookie bodyguards. So they were like supporting each other. But now the situation is completely different. Seems like the cookies have turned against Meiteis. And one reason can be the Meiteis are demanding the scheduled tribe status, which is currently enjoyed by the Nagas and the Cookies. But since they occupy the major area of the state, correct me on that, Roshanji, if I'm wrong, like they
So,
occupy 90% of the
so
land of Manipur is owned by the Cookies, and they still have the right to buy land in the valley, whereas the Métis, they do not have the right to buy any land in the hills. So that kind of discrimination has been there, and probably this imaginary line was created by the British, and it is continuing. And the Métis, although very educated in the valleys, and but they want their fair share in the jobs and all. And I believe after that ruling by the Supreme Court, the violence erupted, and that kind of march that took place by the Cookies and the Nagas, but they had weapons. Instead of a peaceful march, it was a weaponized march. So maybe
so
somehow that
let me
escalated. What's
throw a
your
little bit
opinion
of
on that? Yeah.
let me throw a little bit light on that one. So specific to that land issue that you just mentioned, it is based on the MLR Act of 1960, which is called the Manipur Land Reform Act of 1960, in which the Meiteis are not allowed to buy properties in 90% of the state, and we can buy land in the 10%, in which the 10%, if you take out the Loktak Lake, which is a big lake in the Imphal Valley, we're down to 6%, right? So it is very ironic. I mean, I'm trying to look at myself and saying that it is very ironic that I can come all the way around the world in the United States, buy property anywhere in the United States, almost anywhere, right? And you don't even have to be a citizen. You can be a H-1B holder. But if I go back to my home state, I can't go and buy property in 90% of the state, which is quite ironic and quite, I mean, I haven't even
Yeah.
thought
So
about it.
basically, Métis are alienated in their own state.
Yeah, we have become some sort of like a whipping boy in the name of majority community, right? We are about 55%. The rest of the Nagas and the Cookies, they fill in the rest of the population and all. But because of this 1960 Act, which was passed by the parliament before Manipur attained statehood, we are in a state where we cannot even go and administer the hills, basically, and we are just boxed into this Imphal Valley, which is about 10% of the land mass. And to on top of that, the tribals can go to the valley buy property. And what's very unique about that transaction is that when a tribal buys it from a, say, um, Meitei family or something like that, they could buy it in a single transaction. It's a straightforward, you give me money, I give you my land. But when a Meitei tries to buy this same land back from a tribal in in Imphal, they have to go through the DC and a couple of tribal bodies to even for even the transaction to be approved. So this is a very kind of like, our rights as Meiteis keeps dwindling if you look at it. Like, we don't have STs. Our representation in the police force and everything is very minimal. Of the top 7 cops in Manipur, 4 of them are cookies. There are 0 Meiteis in there. If you think of the secretariat, the top bureaucrats of the top 15 bureaucrats, 12 are cookies, 0 Meiteis again. So if you think of it, even though we are majority, we don't have too much representation in that. The only representation that we currently have is the political representation. And that is where a lot of this imbalance and not having a level playing field is being, like, being thought of as a major kind of a pain point for the Meiteis. But again, coming back to that ST issue, what's funny is that the ST demand was not even approved. It was just a mere recommendation by the High Court that and it has to go through a bunch of hoops before we can even attain ST. And it was a legal way of doing it. What I don't understand is the fact that you don't have to go up in flames to protest that legal procedure, I guess, right? So all they could have done was put an injunction in court, and then the matter would have been subsided instead of going on this supposedly peaceful rally with AK-47s and all, and making it much worse.
Yeah, it was
So
just a suggestion by the courts. Probably the
yes,
leaders from all the different communities could have stepped at that time, and whosoever was responsible for the march could have seen that it goes peacefully without this show of assault weapons. So now I would go to Ajay Shah. Ajayji, I would like to have your perspective on the current situation in Manipur and
Mm.
how it is important to us over here and the world.
So I'll set the stage, taking off from where my esteemed panelist left off, and I would say that you have to really look at this not as a religious conflict, because as he so eloquently mentioned, that there are cookies who are predominantly Christian, but not all of them, vast majority at least, and there are Meiteis who are not just Hindus, but many of them are Christians, some of them are Muslims, uh, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Some of them are Sanamais. So it's a state which is almost a majority minority state. In fact, I've listened to some scholars who have said that when the next census happens, Manipur might as well be a majority Christian state, because if you count the Christians in the Kuki community, the Nagas, and the Meiteis community, it might well be that it's a majority of Christian state. So it's really a majority minority kind of state. It's also important to note that Nagas, who are predominantly Christians, have actually not joined this. The inter-tribe kind of fight that is going on. There is also another thing to consider, is that there is a 2,000-year-old history that Manipur has. It is not something that it's not something that was set up like 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. There's a continuous civilizational history, a very rich history that Manipur has, and it's a very people, and rightfully so, in Manipur, are very proud of it. So anyone who comes with a suggestion that now divide the state up into 2 and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't go well with anyone, because there is a continuous civilization over there. What we need to ask ourselves is that the the scheduled tribe status that is being given, and that has been given to one community and not to the other community, even though both fall into similar category. Is that really doing anyone good? If it is given to one, then why, then cookies, then certainly Meiteis and Nagas would have equal right to that kind of status, where they're from the same civilizational background. Second thing one must ask is, as you correctly pointed out, there is a lot of infiltration from Myanmar that's going on, and this infiltration has nefarious ends, if I may say, because why it is not just economic infiltration that is going on, and we need to ask, why is this infiltration that is going on? And we have seen these infiltrations, changing infiltrations happening in Assam. We have seen it in other parts of India, and now it has gone on in Manipur for quite a while. The third thing we have to ask is that really what happens when there's a persistent persecution of one community, whether it's a minority or majority community. And I look at the Jammu and Kashmir, where Hindu minority was not able to buy land where from outside of Jammu and Kashmir, where Hindus were systematically persecuted. They were limited to certain kinds of jobs. They were not given equal opportunity in education. I look at the major states in southern India and some in northern India, where the temples are controlled by the government, whereas the religious places of worship of other religions are not. Uh, so you have to look at that. Another aspect I would look at it is the sophisticated arms. How did people end up getting these sophisticated arms? Where did the money come from? And who, these are hard questions that we need to ask. That there is someone funding this. Is the funds is the funding coming from China? Is it coming from Pakistani ISI? Is it coming from international organizations? Who benefits by taking this strategically important part and gateway to East in many ways, for Southeast Asia in many ways, for India? Who is funding destabilization of this area? That is something that we need to ask. And I would say finally, to the internationalization, when the European Union or the some of the organizations based here, when they question what is happening in Manipur, you have to say, okay, let's follow the money. And the follow the money is that there's really an unprecedented amount of Christian conversion, right? The population of Christians, even though this particular conflict is not a a Hindu Christian kind of conflict, as I mentioned earlier, but really there is a unprecedented amount of Christian conversion that is going on. Number of Christians have doubled, and we have to say that who benefits out of this? So there are organizations in America, the organizations in Europe with substantial political influence. They benefit out of this conversion, and so we have to ask ourselves honestly, if you follow the money, are there people in America, are there people in Europe who are benefiting from this conversion and having a status of a scheduled tribe limited to one community benefit them? And is destabilizing this region benefit a country like China? So you really have to take the religion to some extent, not because it's really an intertribal conflict. You have to take into account the arms that are flowing in, the strategic location, the human rights aspect of people who are majority, 54% of the tribe, having access to only 6% of land. If you take all of this into account, then you have to say that, look, what is it that we can all come together collectively and do? And I don't mean people like us living in America, but all the people with roots in India who live in India, they're all coming together and saying, what is it that we can do that is best for all the people who are living this in Manipur?
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you very much for bringing in your perspective and also highlighting the role of China and how other international forces might be responsible for this, because this area is very close to Myanmar and the borders are porous through which weapons are getting in. And there's also like big drug like opium trade, which is unprecedented opium growth is taking place in the Cookie Hills, which is not allowed, but that is fueling or funneling the drugs through that border and getting into India and other states. So basically, this is was said to be a golden triangle there for the drugs, where China might be one of the key interest parties besides Myanmar. And we really have to look it through that angle, why it is there, who is fueling, financing it. Is it to destabilize India, to break these beautiful 8 states out of India, or what's the real motive behind it? We all need to think. And I would like to go to the next panelist.
Let me just add a little bit of data to it, to
Sure.
what Ajay said about the majority minority. Uh, Based on the last statistics, I guess, that we got, the Hindus are 41%, and the Christians, when you combine together, are 41%. So we're not, Meitei Hindus are not actually a majority anymore. And then to the poppy cultivation, there are about 15,000 acres of poppy cultivation in the Manipur Hills, and about 13,000 of them belong to the Kuki community or the Kuki dominated areas.
It's also important to note here that in 1901, there were like basically 1% of the Christians. And now, as you pointed out, there are 41% of Christians. So somehow the demography of the state has been altered. And who is funding? Like, definitely there is, what are the motives behind this altered demography? That is probably one of the causes for the violence going on in the state at this time. So thank you, Roshan, shedding a light on that. So let's go to John Prabhudas on his perspective. You are muted.
I can go last because I had a lot of questions. If you want to take others.
Okay, Ms. Purnima Nath, I would request you to be there.
Yeah, good morning. I wanted to actually listen to John first before I go, but let me take this opportunity. Thank you so much, American Hindu Coalition, for involving me and giving me the opportunity to share my views. It was wonderful listening from Roshan ji as well as Ajay Shah ji. Thank you so much for your information. I would classify this, what's going on in Manipur, is a conquest and conquer, a conquest and capture through foreign agendas and Abrahamic religion. And I'll give you data to prove what I'm saying today. You guys talked about 2 tribes, Meiteis and Cookies. But here in the, somebody said it was not a religious clash, but I'll show you how it is. Manipur, we have to look at history, we have to look at population, we have to look at demography, geography, and modern blunders post-independence. Quickly speaking, 1901, the population of Christian population was 0.02%, not even 1%, Dr. Preet. 2011 census, the Christian population was 41.29%. In the same census, the Hindus were 41.39%. 2021 census number was not released. It was not done. I can guarantee you the number is about 45%, around that. Christian population. Muslim population in Manipur is 8.45%. That gives you the total number of Hindu population. So Hindus are actually minority in Manipur. Now I want to add one caveat over here. 4 out of 7 sisters of Northeast has Hindus are in minority. In Mizoram, Hindus are 2.75%, Christianity is 90%. In Nagaland, Hindus are 8.75%, Christians are almost 90%. In Meghalaya, that was one of the first states to go around in terms of Christianity. 11.53% around 2011 census. At that point of time, the number is 75% Hindus. Christianity, sorry. And Arunachal Pradesh, Hindus at 29%, and Christianity at that point of time was 30%. What I'm telling you right now is northeast region of India had been a Christian conversion target for a many decades. At the same time, 1931 to 1951, just before the 1947 partition, we saw a massive spurt of the conversion agenda. And the way Roshan mentioned, today what we see is that they are targeting the Hindu communities. Meiteis are also becoming Christian. Meiteis are also becoming Muslims. Now, if you look at the geography of Manipur, 10% of the valley in comparison to the other area, it's not actually valley, the entire thing is in hill, but it's called 10% valley because in comparison to the hill, that is a valley. In that section, 57 to 60% of majority people live over there, and that's why they have a political power, 40 plus seat in the from a political perspective. But it is surrounded by 90% of the hilly land, which is in the north side, it's Nagas, in the south side, it is Kukis. People are talking about this violence, and they're taking it as in context that this is the culprit, and because Modi government has focused, first time in the history of post-independence, some peace was seen in the northeast region of India. Today, Modi government is not being targeted in terms of policy, but they are being targeted in terms of social causes. And these kind of unrests are happening throughout India. We just recently saw what was happening in the northwest corridor in the name of Khalistan, which is funded by Pakistan. On the northeast side, this is the gateway to Southeast Asia that is being targeted as well. And so in order for all of us to understand how it is a secure national security interest targeted against India and Hindu people who lives in India, we might want to look at what is happening throughout PFI, what is happening, the agenda in terms of Western interest in Kashmir, Western interest in terms of Manipur, Western interest in terms of anything that is against Hindus, against India. So in short, what I'm trying to say over here, this is a clear example of conquest and capture through foreign entities and Abrahamic religion. And pretty soon, in about 10 years or so, we are not going to have any Hindus left in the northeast region. Tripura has more Hindus because most of them are Bengalis, and there are some Hindus, majority Hindus are in Assam, and Manipur is very strategic. It is known as Jewel of India because it's surrounded by 9 hills. And today it's burning not because it is a clash between 2 tribes, because one of the communities' rights had been snatched by policies throughout the years and decades. And today we are seeing it as, and the Western media had shown it as an anti-Christian violence. So I would like to be spared by lectures from any Western media saying that Hindus are not getting eliminated and tribal religions are not getting eliminated. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Purnima ji, for shedding a light on the situation at ground. Like, this is no way anti-Christian riots. And as you came up with all the statistics, all the facts that how Christians are dominating the area, and they have altered the demography through international intervention funding and all, because a religion or a group that was 0.01% at 1901 is about to be, after the census comes, like in this state, 45%, and other states are 90% and over that. So that's concerning. Like it is really a war against Hindus. So I would like to have John shed share his perspective on the current situation and the allegations and the false narrative that is projected in the international world, that this is something against Christians, whereas it is from the ground reality, it's against Hindus, against practicing Hindus, and how they are driven away or lured away from their faith and their followings over the centuries. So, what could be the motive behind that, and where is it going to lead India and the world, in which direction? Thank you. To you, John.
Great. Thank you, Anju. You should be a panelist. Not you should have been a panelist. You would have made a better panelist. You should have been a moderator.
I would give that role to the experts on the topic, on the situations. Yeah.
I see that you have, conclusions on several issues. But here is the thing. Thank you for inviting me. Thank Mr. Tiwari for his friendship and inviting me for this discussion. Now, I agree to this because this friend would always say one thing, that John, know the truth, seek the truth, truth will set you free. It is very important for us to know the truth, seek the truth, and not be clouded by ethnic, religious, and family related emotions. Okay. Having said that, I have prepared my remarks, but I also have to comment on some of the points that were raised here. Okay. So let me first go through my remarks quickly, and then I'll come to my response to the comments. Okay. Let me also briefly go through the chronology of the events in Manipur. Historically, what has happened, and where we are. Okay. As Mr. Roshan pointed out, historically, Nagas and Kukis have had territorial disputes. And a thing to keep in mind is that, as you all know, the tribals, both Kukis and the Nagas, are primarily Christian. And among the Meiteis, as he pointed out, about 20% are Christians, and the rest of them are Sanamagi, and a good number of them follow the Brahminic Hinduism, which is, by the way, Brahminic Hinduism came to Manipur. What is it, 1700? Roshan would probably be able to shed more light on it. Before that, there was no Hinduism there. So if Purnima or someone wants to say that there were Hindus for 2,000 years, please take the facts correctly. Those Northeast people were converted to Hinduism. Okay. And if you go back, even to the southern parts of the Indian subcontinent, until the 8th century, until the Bhakti movement, there was no Hinduism, or there was no Brahmanism. This all comes after the Bhakti movement. So that's a different subject for a different day. So the non-tribals, the Meiteis, constitute about 53%, as we all know. The main argument here seems to be, well, the 53% have only 6% of the land, and then the rest of them, have 90% of the land. It is true, but it's a misleading truth. The reason I'm saying that is because, take for example, Egypt. 98% of the population lives in less than 5% of the land, because the Nile River Valley, both in Cairo and in Alexandria, that is the inhabitable place. That is where the 90%, 98% of the population lives. The 2% lives in the rest of the land. The demographic, the landscape the climate, um, um, socioeconomic factors determine that. Why there are so many people living in Chennai and Calcutta and Bombay? Because economic factors. So, so to say that, well, the 53% have only 10%, they're living in a 6% area, it's kind of a little misleading, not entirely true. And again, 98% is not completely, 90% of the land is not entirely inhabitable either. You have, if you take out the valleys, and not the valleys, the mountain sides that are uninhabitable, you probably have about 15% to 20% of that land is actually habitable. Okay, let me finish it. I was quiet until you are all finishing talking about it. Okay, so we can have a healthy discussion. Reasonable people can disagree, so that's okay. Now let's come to the conflict. The what sparked this conflict? Evidently, you have a population that is designated as tribal based on their socio-economic factor. We have to also take into consideration centuries of oppression, centuries of discrimination, or whatever that may be. In Manipur, it's a little different, not like in South and in Bihar and other places. But Manipur has its share of discrimination and the socioeconomic factors that determined the people who lived in the hill area as it's a derogatory word in certain sense, but let me say it in a good way, that the mountain people, you know, they have their own lifestyle. They're not as socially and economically progressed as people in other civilizations or in cosmopolitan cities. So in that way, if you take it, there is a reason why certain people were designated as tribal. I mean, the tribals are not only just in Manipur, by the way, or in Northeast. There are tribals in Andhra, in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala. There are tribal people, and their lands also are protected constitutionally, and there is a reason, very good reason for it. All right. Now, we may agree, disagree with all those things, but the fact is, because of their socioeconomic, centuries of socioeconomic conditions, they were given a solemn guarantee by a state that you have this right perpetually, and which is not debatable, which is not cannot be taken away from you. Okay, that is a solemn guarantee was given to those people. Now, what this one single judge of the High Court, not the Supreme Court, said in Manipur is that, and by the way, that case was brought to the court, I'm told, I'm not, I haven't double checked it, by a Kuki politician, that the Meitei should have access to these lands. And the access should be given in the terms of unlimited recognition.
Sorry to interrupt you there, John, but we are kind of running little short on the time. So if we can stick to the issue,
I need about another 20 full minutes to if you want me to be reasonably talk about this thing. Otherwise, you can end it now.
No, we don't want to end it, but we are having like tons and tons of questions from our panelists, and
well, let me answer the questions that are already raised. Let me answer the questions that are already raised. Okay. So now we have. Is it okay, or do you want to end it?
Yeah, please be brief and go ahead with the questions. And the history is like you mentioned centuries of operation and like Hinduism.
That's a historic fact. We don't have to debate
these
that.
Are not historic. Like since 33 AD, if you haven't looked at the history, the people, tribals over there were polytheistic. And this Hindu word or Brahminic word is given by other religions. So anybody who is free to pray in their own way is a polytheist, is a Hindu. but that's the way of life, as you know. Like, and Hindus have been traditionally polytheist, and so I have Ajay Shah there, and he has a question to you on that remark. That is kind of like derogatory to what you call
Yeah,
Hinduism.
I
Yes,
absolutely
Ajay.
detest,
The
and
word
I
itself
absolutely,
is a
I
British
think
invention.
it is nothing but Hindu phobia. It is nothing but Hindu hate to use the word Brahminical Hinduism. And I would not, I have been very respectful on this
Brahminical
forum. Please let me
Hinduism
finish.
is the
Please,
fact.
please do let me finish, John. I really respect you. I really respect what you have to say, but do not throw around words like Brahminical Hinduism, because that is, you are insulting every single Hindu in the
No,
world by
see,
using this word.
you don't have
I would
to.
demand that you apologize to this audience and
No,
all the Hindus who are
I'm not
watching,
apologizing
that
for
you
my
should not use
opinion.
the word
Okay. And
Brahminical
that
Hinduism
way
anywhere.
I can ask for you to
I would
apologize
ask,
20
I have
times
not,
for all the remarks
I
that
have
you
not
made.
mentioned, please let
Okay.
me finish. Do not interrupt me. I have
So
not
you
asked, I have not asked what your caste
have
is.
interrupted my presentation, Ajay.
I did not.
You
I
have
raised my
interrupted my
hand.
presentation now.
Moderator
You
called
are
upon me,
asking.
and okay, this is not a way to debate. Moderator called upon me. I answered, please let me finish. I would say that please make your point. Even if it is against Hindus, that's fine. But do not resort to name calling and calling Hindus Brahminical Hindus. This is absolutely insulting to every one of the 1.1 billion Hindus in the world.
I disagree with you, Ajay, for that. In that, okay, that is
Name
a
calling,
fact. Okay, read some history on that, and then
But
you will
I,
understand.
I
Okay,
request
so
all
let
panelists
me move
to
on. Let me move on.
please talk on the issue. Let's not make
Yeah,
one more Manipur
yeah.
burning kind of debate burning here. So
All
please
right,
stick
let
to
me move
the
on.
topic,
so,
please.
John, before you move on, let's have Purnima ask you the question. You please unmute yourself, Purnima.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Preet. But John, I'd like you to point out operation. You mentioned operation, you mentioned Brahminical Hinduism. What operation are you talking about? You're talking about centuries of operation. Bhakti movement came to Manipur somewhere around early 1700s through their king. Can I say the same thing for Christianity when it was pushed around the world from 300 CE? Can I say the same thing for you guys?
Not
I'm
300.
not. I'm
You
not
can say
over.
the first century. You can
No,
say first century.
you
Yeah.
don't even have the book written until 300
You don't
century,
need to. You
and
don't
then
need to
you
have a
do not
book
have.
for
You
our
did
faith.
not. Please don't disrespect the panelists and cut off people. I did not cut you off. So please give me my time. Dr. Preet,
Purnima.
call me on it. Please, I'm not,
Okay.
I will ask you the question. You will have the time to
Okay.
respond back.
Ask me.
I understand your urgency of cutting people off, imposing your ideas and your ideology to entire world, and not giving other people and the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I understand that, John, very well. And that's exactly what you're doing throughout the world. And this is exactly what you're doing in the debate as well. And this is literally a sneak peek and a sneak peek for everybody to understand what you as a Christian organization and entities you are doing to the Hindus and all tribal religions, and what you have done here in United States. So my question is, Hinduism may, or at least the conversion or the Bhakti movement may have come to Manipur in 19 or 1700. I could say the same thing because you did not have your book ready to publish until 300 CE, until Constantinople had created that council and decided and given you the Jesus, the divinity for everybody to follow. Please do not teach us, all of us, how to worship and who to worship, and what kind of question we should ask. What you have just told in terms of oppression, what you have told in terms of Brahminical Hinduism is extremely demeaning, and you are literally trying to belittle us. In Manipur issue, we are talking about 45%
Are you asking a
Christian
question
population,
or are you making a
as well
statement,
as
Purnima?
8.45%. Almost, we're talking about almost 50 to 60% is non-Hindus right now. You're trying to debate over here, calling us oppressors?
So also,
let me just jump in a little bit, just to divert our attention a little bit to the current issue, because people are suffering right now, both sides, right? Both sides are suffering. There is a humanitarian crisis. Almost 80,000 have lost their homes. Over 100 people have died. So I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface as to what's happening in Manipur currently, because we can, if we go back down history, then we will we'll spend the entire day going round and round about when it started, when did Hinduism came, when did Christian came, how many Christians. I mean, that feeds into it, but I would love for us to focus on the current issues, because I would love for us to have some sort of agreement on how we can move forward to solve this issue, because it's been 80 days and people are suffering from both sides.
Yeah, we are here to separate fact from fiction, what is happening on the ground, and not to share like fictional things. Like it's like to show the facts. And if you are denying any of the facts, John, like 90% of the area, the hills, if the Meiteis are not allowed to purchase land, land is land, whether it's habitable or not habitable. They are deprived of their right to buy that.
So what John said was that in Imphal is, that's the main city of Manipur, but whether people choose to settle there, it's a choice. What we are talking about is that Meiteis don't have rights in 90% of Manipur. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice except for Imphal Valley, and that is a big problem.
So how can we bring
Roshan,
peace to that
okay,
land at this time? How we can
Yes, yes.
contribute
Yes,
to
yes.
the current situation? Yes, John.
Can I continue?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Thank
I've
you.
been raising, excuse me, I'm sorry. My hand has been up for a while. I really
I've
want
been
to.
interrupted again.
Sorry, BT, we don't have your name or your picture, so I
Really?
would ask you to hold on and let John finish, please.
I know I cannot, because I need to correct some of the misinformation that he's just been spouting. And if we do not correct this, we cannot go further in this discussion. My name is Dr. Billy Grainer. I'm somebody who has worked on this. I've worked in Myanmar and Manipur for a really long time. I want to tell Mr. John Prabhudas that the Brahminical, quote unquote, Brahminical Hinduism that you're talking about Hinduism in Manipur did not even come from India. It came from Burma. It came from the Shans in 1640. But the conversion of Manipur into Hinduism happened in the early 18th century, not 17. It happened in 1704. But that's besides that. What I want to tell you about the point I want to make is about land ownership, where people seem to think that, oh, the tribals own 90% of the land. That's completely nonsense, because pre-independence there was no such thing as tribal and non-tribal in Manipur. Everybody in Manipur, whether it's the Hindus or Nagas or Meiteis, were classified by the British colonizers as tribals. It is only with independence, and most importantly, with the MLR Act, the Manipur Land Revenue Act of 1960, 1966, and consequently Article 371C, whereby Manipur became a state, that this demarcation of land has happened. So in 1960, the Manipur State Executive could change could designate any land as whatever, tribal land or non-tribal land, but it was only with 371C, which was passed in 1970 when Manipur became a state from a union territory, that this was changed to something that can only be done by the executive, by the center, by the president. So this is where the issue lies. The 90% of the land does not belong to the tribe. This land has also in tribal traditional law, there is no such thing as land ownership. The chief of the village is the proprietor of the land. He does not own the land. So until and unless we have these clarifications, we cannot proceed further on in this discussion. Plus, the other thing that I also want to point out is that there is this misconception that, oh, the Meiteis who are Hindus want to go and settle in the hill lands. We have absolutely no such desire. In fact, everybody wants to settle in the valley. Also, when you talk about hills and valleys cannot be separated. Georgetown itself is a valley. You need to look at the geography of Manipur. Don't see it as one hill and one valley. There are hills there are 9 ranges of hills and multiple valleys.
Thank you for
I
bringing
would,
that ground perspective. I'll go back to John, finish it, and then we will raise questions. And
We have,
let's stay away from blaming
okay,
each other or calling names or something to other.
exactly.
Let's be respectful for all the religions. India is a secular country, and so is US. So let's be respectful to
I would like to
all
keep
the
it that way. Yes. Okay. I don't know. I got too many questions asked of me. I will address that one by one. But here, let me go through my thoughts on this conflict itself. These are all the larger issues that doesn't really pertain to our discussion on this Manipur violence, right? Now, the Manipur violence again, this judge says, well, the center and the state governments should consider changing the status of Manipuri Meitei people to a tribal status. Now, I have no dog in the fight. If Meiteis want to be considered as tribal, that's fine. But here is the response from the Kuki tribes is that they see that as a threat. Threat to what? Threat to their like the lady last mentioned, they don't own the land. They have the proprietorship over the land. They are the caretakers of the land. Like I'm assuming from what she said is that it would be something like the tribes in America. Um, uh, they did not own the land. They don't have a territorial boundaries for their for what they call their nation. It's they live on the land, they live off of land, but they don't necessarily own the land, and that has been a, a kind of a belief system that cuts across several uh, um, cultures. Now, when this judge had passed this thing, it has made some people nervous, some cookies. And so this all tribal, as you know, the student union takes this procession. They call for this march all across the state, in major cities all across the state. And that is when this thing goes south with unexpected attacks and social media sharing, saying that some cookies had attacked the other side with killing a few people, if I'm not mistaken, and that has become a root cause of a major meltdown. Now, what happened during that meltdown is very critical, very important to understand, right? We have been from March 3rd till March 2015, 20, we could not get any information. We had to send people to find out what's happening there. Now, what we are understanding from that, one of the witnesses, one of the refugees, the internally displaced person that we spoke to, was telling his story. He said that he is from a Kuki, and we had both Meiteis and Kukis in that discussion. And he said, well, we were in the villages, and suddenly we saw bombs falling in our village. I said, what do you mean bombs? Was it like a petrol bomb, like like a Molotov cocktail? He said, no. From far away, there were bombs were coming. It's like a rocket fires. Why would rocket fires? I know there were police armories were raided by some of the militant groups, and they have taken all the arms. But there were no, to my understanding, to my knowledge, there were no rocket-propelled grenades or shoulder-fired missiles in those armories. Where did they come from? He said, no, I don't know. All that we know, these rockets were falling in our village. The village chief asked us to vacate, and we ran into the forest, and we got out of town. We walked all across the border, and he was talking from Shillong at the time. Now that raises a very interesting question. Now you have to look at it with in a larger picture. So Mr. I think his name is Pramod Singh of Meitei Lipan said in an interview with Karan Thapar that we will wipe out cooking. Now, Karan Thapar asked him, what do you mean wiping out the entire population? He said, yes, we will wipe them out. And I consider Mr. Biren Singh, the chief minister, as I worship him. He is my godfather, and he is with us. So we're gonna wipe the cookies out of our land.
See, it's important to note here, John, like Meiteis are saying they want to wipe out, but from where and
No,
how
not Meiteis. No,
you have to
no.
how
No,
cookies are
Meiteis did
getting
not.
weapons.
Meiteis did not say it. This is one man saying it, a
One man,
leader
okay.
of a militant
But
group.
since you brought that out, that must be very important or very influential. Otherwise, why would you bring out one Meitei's voice on this forum if it is not representing the Meiteis?
I was flabbergasted when you said that. Now
So
you
it
have
would
to look at it. Let me finish the Anju.
it would be kind of misguiding, like saying just
It's not
one person
misguiding. There
said
were a lot
that,
of
and if
misguiding
he is not
statements before
representing
me.
the Meiteis, then
Anju,
yes.
Anju, before you called me to say something, there were a lot of misguiding. I kept quiet. I did not say anything. There are a lot of misguiding statements made. Okay.
You
I don't
can
want to
quote.
say who said what. Okay.
If this
They
forum
have-
is
they
to
have
bring the
the
facts
freedom of thought,
away
freedom
from
of
the
religion,
fiction.
freedom of expression. They can say whatever they want. Let me finish what I'm trying to say.
Sure,
Is it okay?
but again, I would request you to please respect time. We are little.
I can tell you. I can stop right now if you like.
No,
If you
we
want
want
my
to give
opinion on
everybody the
this, I would.
space to.
Let me continue. You invited me to come and talk to you.
Yes, we want to
You don't
give
want to
space
gang
to
up.
everybody, but
You don't want
like
four people gang up
if you can
on
be
me.
if you can be concise and like still put your point behind in front, that would be very nice of you, John.
I don't have sound bites to. If you want me to
It's not.
explain things to you
No, it's not
from
sound
my
bites for
perspective.
the. It's
Okay.
not about sound bites. It's like how moving forward. What solutions do you
We
see?
need to come to it. We need to find out. See, there
And
is no peace
why
without
the
justice,
European
right?
Union jumped into what interest the foreign countries have in the situation?
European Union has their own mind. I'm not a European Union. Okay. I'm not representing European Union. I'm not even here to talk about what European Union did or did not do. That is not we are talking about. What we are talking about. We're talking about what happened on that day and how do we move forward with it.
Yes, it would be important to see how do we move forward.
Yes. Okay. So let me discuss from what I understand the problem is. Because without understanding the problem, Ajay,
Can you guys mute if you guys are not talking, please?
yeah, thank you. Okay, so without understanding the problem, you cannot find a solution. You cannot have your own, you cannot have ideas in your mind and say, okay, this is what the solution is going to be. That will not work. Okay, so my question is, where did this militant group acquire sophisticated weapons like the shoulder-fired rockets and grenades? So I can understand if they used AK-47s or small arms, because that has been widely available in that region. There have been decades of conflict, as Mr. Roshan had pointed out. So according to Hindu newspaper, on May 19th, 2023, I quote, many eyewitnesses and victims narrated that the violent attackers wore black t-shirts similar to those worn by the members of Arambai Tangol. I didn't even know who Arambai Tangol is. Okay. Now I know, but I'm just quoting from Hindu. It has also been reported that houses belonging to the tribal people in Imphal had been marked with a strange red spray paint well before the violent attack started on the night of May 3rd. So in his interview, Mr. Pramod Singh claimed only with a strong Meitei Hindu population can India be a strong nation. I'm not saying he is representing all Meitei view. I refuse to accept it. I'm sure Mr. Roshan has his own view on that. I would respect that, but I don't think he may agree with Pramod Singh on it. If he, I'm not sure if you agree with Pramod Singh, please let me know. I hope you don't.
So
Okay, but
are you?
Pramod Singh did say that, right? I mean, there is no denying of it. Everyone knows it. So he is able to say such a thing in an interview openly because he is protected by a BJP government, both in Manipur and in Delhi. Now, you all will disagree with me. That's fine with me, but I have to say it. Okay. He said the same thing also in his Facebook page on April 28th, 5 days before May 3rd. And that makes me to believe what happened on May 3rd was premeditated, was not a spontaneous reaction to the tribal people taking a rally across the state.
So I mean,
Insecurity about Christianity appeared to be a common concern for both Arambai Tengo and Meitei Lipun. Now coming to know to Mr. Ajay Shah, my co-panelist, and for Purnima also, Christianity seems to be a common concern. The spread of Christianity seems to be a threat.
Did I say that, John?
Yeah.
I don't think so. You better go and check again. What I said, I was very specific in saying.
Say it, I apologize for it.
No,
Okay.
no, please do not put words in my mouth. I can speak for myself. Please respect that. So I'll say again what I said. What I said was that we have to look at it past Hindu-Christian kind of conflict. This is and Purnima ji said what she had to say. I'm not going to speak for her. What I clearly said was that we have to look past the religious aspect of this conflict. There are a lot of other factors, but I also said that there are international organizations which may be Christian, which may be internationalist, like IFR or European Union or some other organizations that may have their own self-interest in promoting the anti-Hindu agenda, or they may have internationalizing Christian this particular. Please let me finish.
Not Hindu agenda. You said Hindu agenda, not Hindu.
Please let me finish. They may have their own interest in promoting balkanization of India and internationalizing this particular conflict. What is their driver? Is it money? Is it territory? Is it strategic interest? So these are the people who are promoting a particular narrative and trying to make it a Hindu-Christian kind of conflict in America, in Europe, and other places. I did not say anything of the sort that you're accusing me of saying. So please be very mindful. You can go back, please. I would say you go back and look at go back and listen to what I said. Zoom recording will be available at some point. And then if you have any questions, reach out to me. We can have a rational discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll have coffee one day. We'll meet in.
Yes,
My
given the
point of-
I'll
history,
pay.
My point of
I'll
view.
pay for the
given the
coffee. How about
history and
that?
given the way
I
things
I
are,
absolutely
given
agree
the
with Mr.
Hindu-Christian
What Mr.
agenda
Ajay is saying. Mr. Ajay has
wrong.
said this absolutely right. There's an attack. Everybody's spreading, false information, false narrative about, you see here in the West, everybody's against, they're claiming that, this is a cleansing of attack against the Christians. There's a lot of activities going on from the Christian community here. And what are the Hindu community doing right now? Hindu needs to defend itself, right? There's nobody out there. So what is going on right now is that everywhere in the corner of the world, oh, there is attack against Christian. This news is everywhere outside India right now.
So okay, let's do this. I mean, I would respectfully and wholeheartedly disagree that this is a religious conflict. This is nowhere near religious conflict. Yes, religious places of worship have been a collateral in the mob violence in the first couple of days. You will not hear any more church burning from like the first few days. That's as it exploded. Mandirs are being burnt. Churches are being burnt. Mandirs are being bulldozed, not even burnt. They came with JCBs and there are reports, like not by Manipuri media. This is national media. So let's just throw that out of the because there are other things, very, very, very important things that needs to be discussed as the root cause of the current conflict. Number one being the poppy cultivation and war on drugs and how narco-terrorists plays an important role in the conflict. The second one is the statewide eviction of reserve forest encroachment, in which the state had to remove from this suspension of operations agreement with the Kuki militants, because they started interfering in the eviction process because it affected the Kukis. Then the Kuki refugees and illegals, which is a major issue, national security issue, growth of, unnatural growth of Kuki villages in the past, 30, 40 years. And then the illegal immigrants, a problem with them, the refugees, is that they don't want to be identified as refugees. They just want to become Indian citizens. That seems to be the case. And this is supported by the Kuki communities. And there was a subcommittee from the Manipur government, which was led by a Kuki himself, Honorable MLA Mr. Lepao Haukip. And in one such drive to identify the illegal immigrants, there were 2,000 found in about 2,000 refugees were found in the Technopol district, and so on and so forth. So this is a big national security issue. If you don't know who's coming in and who's going out of your border, then this is a big national security issue for India, not just for Manipur. Don't look at it as a Manipur issue. The poppy cultivation, 13,000.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you,
Also,
Roshan, for
what-
nailing it. You nailed it, and
Dr.
you have all the things that you think are
again,
important and to be
one
looked
last
from
point.
national security point.
One last point, that drug issue, right? If you think that this is a Manipur issue, you're mistaken. Where are those drugs gonna go to? Where are the major markets? The major markets are the major cities in India. It's gonna go to
Yes.
Delhi. It's gonna go to Mumbai, Chennai, wherever, Bangalore, wherever it is. Those are the major consumers. So it's gonna come land at your door. Manipur is just a
Yes.
pass-through.
And I think the government need to understand that. And so I will go to all the panelists to conclude one by
Dr.
one,
Preet, if
because
I-
we have paucity of time to give their suggestions, how situation can be improved, and what would be three of the main steps going forward. I would go to Purnima. Can you please say concluding remarks and your statements, how the situation can be improved?
All right, let me do one thing.
Basant, I'll go back
let
to
me
you for
log out
questions.
here, because I have not even come to the main discussion point here yet.
Then
let me
John,
log out
sorry
since
to
you
say, John,
decided
you
to-
were given enough time. Then
No,
like instead of
everybody else
like
talked more than I
giving
did in
one
my-
person's statements, what he said to the interview, what that person said to the interview, even though he doesn't
Anju.
represent a community, and the forum has certain time for everybody. So I
Okay.
have been requesting you to be concise. So I'll go back to you before Purnima.
No,
Please finish
let's
in
let's
2
do one
minutes
thing. Let's
and
do
give
one
your
thing, because
concluding remarks.
everybody else have taken my time. No, I haven't gotten to say anything. So
John, I would like to
so
request you
it
to
looks
come
like-
back
it
after
looks like
reading
you
the
all
other
have-
narrative also, not only one
Maybe
single
we'll
narrative.
have a separate webinar again for you, John.
I would love
just-
that. I would love to. I
yes.
would love to.
Yeah.
To make a believer out of it. Out of you, because you need to listen to.
So you
The
need to
truth
make
will set you
believers.
free,
Why do you
Anju.
want to make believers? Just say the facts
Anju,
and people will
because you
believe.
no, believer means not in a religious sense. Believer out of what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay?
So whatever
Because
you say
truth-
with the facts and like with the
Like
value
my
to it.
friend
So
says,
we believe.
Like my friend says, like
With
Gandhi
due
said, the
respect,
truth will
John,
set you
do
free.
you know what? Please let
Okay.
me know what you know about Meitei. You're talking about a
Okay.
lot of narratives about
Right now, I
Ramba, you
can't
talk
even
about
finish my
Okay,
all
my,
these things.
let's
my
stick to the
presentation.
topic. Let's stick to the
Okay.
topic, please.
What
Yes,
do I
John.
know about Meitei is a long course. It's a Anju has to arrange another webinar for it.
John,
Okay.
so can we go like, can you rethink or be concise of the ground situation? What is there? Like, how can we move forward? And should the international governments be interjecting into this? Is it what the government should be doing? And what is your viewpoint? How we can
See, this is a
build the
complicated.
trust?
This is a very complicated issue that needs in-depth analysis and in-depth a study of the issue. like
So
Roshan said,
maybe we'll have
not something that you can do in 45 minutes in sound bites and have 2 questions and say wrap up. Okay, this can be done. All right. Now, if you want to do it, if you don't have to necessarily do a broadcast with that,
but
if you want
I would request a few concluding remarks from you, how this going forward, this
how am I
situation
going
can
to
be
give
mitigated.
because if I give you on concluding remarks, that would have no sense because I'm not making my case for it. Right? You are not letting me make a case for it before I give a conclusion.
But then we have to respect everybody's time and time of the
Everybody
forum.
else is taking my time. Anju.
No, John, if you're giving misinformation, then people do have to come in and correct you over there. This forum cannot be spreading like false facts.
Mr.
Like
John, I have
centuries
Mr.
of
John,
oppression by Hindus and
Mr. John, you are just
against
speaking
and
some.
all those kind of terms
Listen,
were
Mr.
derogated
John, I
just
have a
speaking some.
to
question.
the
I have a
panelists.
very short
So-
question for you, Mr. John. Why do you think Nagas are not part of the ST demand? Why are they not protesting? Why it's just cookies? If Nagas are also ST, if it is affecting
more than
cookies,
1 hour discussion.
More than 1
yeah,
hour,
if it is just cookies,
Okay.
if
So
it's just cookies
let's,
affecting that, it shouldn't affect Nagas
Okay.
too. So why are not Nagas protesting and it's just cookies? So you have to
Like
have
Mr.
answer. You
Roshan
have a
said,
reason behind it.
Like Mr. Roshan said, it's a very complicated situation on the ground. It's not easy.
It
You
is.
can't
So-
do it in 5-minute
So
presentation.
what do we expect from the government in charge there at this time and the people on the
You want me
land
to be
and
frank
those
with
who are
what
here,
you
how
expect from
we
the
can
government?
control the situation and mitigate it, even though they have done to posted Assam rifles to safeguard the roads and maintain the continuous supply. The Assam rifles have evacuated people from this conflict. 50,000 people have been evacuated to control the damage, but still
Today-
it's a burning state. So what do we expect from Indian government and the world at this stage? If
Today
it is
I
needed.
saw a video, like I received a video where the police is marching with mobs in torching villages. Police, okay, in uniform.
So
Now, you are
John,
asking me how
we
the
should
government should
refrain from
respond to it? Is there a
selective
sensible
condemnation
question
like
to ask?
these police marching.
Right, sir. Before just talking, you just talking something, some lies.
So
You're saying police are
now
going to talk. No, right.
Basan,
Please.
your hand has been up for a while. I'll go for last question and then go to the panelists to wrap it up and say what is required or how can this be helped. Basan.
Yeah, I just want to add, a lot of panelists have, talked about a lot of good things. I just want to add a few points to what John has said. I understand, John, where you're coming from. There's a a major population of Kuki who is mostly 100% Christians, not 100%, but some of them, they claim to be Jews. Since most of them are Christian, you're a Christian, you're supporting their views, and you have been fed the statistics or whatever they have told you, and it's not completely correct. And what we have to think about is, as a Christian or as a citizen, what do you support? If you take in the context of USA, do you support the illegal immigration coming in from Mexico? Do you support the drug cartel coming in from Mexico? As a Christian, you condemn that. And in the same manner, we'd like you to condemn illegal immigration and drug problem in Manipur. That's all I would say.
Can I just respond to that question before
Yes,
we do
please.
conclusion?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yes,
thank
please.
You, thank you, Roshan,
Respond to
for
Basant.
Roshan,
Yeah.
right? Your name, Basant. Thank you for that comment. That's a constructive question. Now, the illegal immigration coming in is a very complicated issue. When the military junta took over the Myanmar, there were a lot of refugees. The Buddhist extremists were driving out everybody else. And a lot of refugees who went to the Muslims, refugees went to Bangladesh, and they accepted them as refugees. And the UNHCR and other agencies got involved in providing all the necessary relief work. in Cox's Bazar and other areas. Now, as you all know more than I do, the Chin, Kuki, Naga, all these tribes are spread all across that region. They're not bound by territorial boundaries. So when these Chin, Mizo, and other refugees were coming across into the Indian border, Indian government made a mistake. Let's be adult enough to understand this. Indian government made a mistake by not recognizing them as refugees, but we branded them as illegal immigrants. Had we recognized them as refugees, UNHCR and other Red Cross and other agencies could have gone in and provided the relief that they needed. Now, in the hills, there is nothing much to do. I understand the concern. The hills, there is nothing much to do. So they ended up in the valley. So when a large number, they speak the same language like the other tribes, or the respective tribes. And for the majority community, even for some Kukis who lived in the Imphal Valley, that was little uneasy for people who came as refugees, don't have anything else to do. They need to make a living. They ended up in the Imphal Valley. That has contributed to the complexity of the problem in the ground. We need to recognize it. Okay.
No,
People
coming and living in the valley is not a problem. John, the illegal, instead of condemning the illegal migration into India, you are justifying it and converting, like giving us
I'm not justifying
status
anything.
of, you did not condemn it, that illegal, this illegal, you did not say, John, you did not say the illegal migration need to be stopped or that is bad. Instead, you are saying like, they should be given a refugee status so
let me give you an objective view.
Like instead of condemning that, like any illegal migration into any sovereign territory is to be condemned.
Yeah, no, large migration of Hindus from Sindh came into India in 1947.
That was part of the deal. That was the part of the deal. That's how these two countries separated, and you cannot call it illegal. That is like people were supposed to come. Those who did not migrate from there, you see the situation of them. They have been reduced from 25% to 3% these days. Had they not moved?
I want to know what Roshan has to say. Roshan,
hold on. One at a time, please. Please mute everyone. One at a time, please.
John, Basant simply asked you. Basant simply asked you to condemn the drug trafficking, the illegal migration, and instead of like asserting to that.
That is true, but okay, let me give you an objective view on this. Okay, so there is illegal immigrants and there are refugees, which are more recent issues. Illegal immigration has been happening post the merger of Manipur to India. So that is an ongoing issue. It's not like a flock of people just came in. That's a different issue. The military junta issue, the refugees is a refugee issue. And then there is an illegal immigrant of infiltrating, assimilating with Manipur without, like, because we don't have administrations in the hill.
John, it looks like you are on mute. John, you are on mute. John,
okay, so hold on. Okay.
Yeah, there's one speaker at a time.
Yeah, yes. So refugees. Okay, let's talk about refugees. The thing is, yes, India does not have a refugee law at large, right? So there's no way to. So that's one thing. But in light of this, the Manipur government formed a subcommittee led by a Kuki himself, right, to start identifying, and then so that you can figure out which ones are refugees, which ones needs to be put in a certain place, and in camps and all those setup. And when they went out to do it, in one day they found 2,000 people in the Technopole district, and that's just in one area. Okay, so that part, and then immediately this thing happened, and now everything is stopped. Right. So, but at the same time, we know that the cookies are spread across Burma, India, Bangladesh, right? But it doesn't mean that they can just come across the border. You have to respect the international border. If somebody from Bangladesh comes in without proper authorization, and try to settle in the Indian side of it. On the Indian side of it, they are illegal immigrants as such.
Yeah.
Refugee is a different thing altogether. That is because of the conflict in Burma and even on the Bangladesh side of it, right? So there are refugees from the Bangladesh side of it who are cookies. There are refugees from the Burmese side of it. So
yeah, thank
my
you, Roshan.
point is
Thank you,
that
Roshan.
there are two distinctions. The illegal
that's what-
immigration has been happening for 50 years, 50, 60, 70 years.
And that's what we were expecting from John, to condemn the import of drugs, the drug cartels, and illegal migration. Buchana, can you unmute John? He wants to say something. Maybe he wants to conclude. Can you unmute John?
Unmute John, please.
Okay, Anju, I don't condemn another human being the same way I cannot condemn you.
No,
Okay?
but you can condemn the situation, like the drug
No,
trafficking,
that's not my job.
and
That's not my
illegal
job.
migration, and the cookies.
No, that's not my
hence
job.
the coming
I
from.
have a quick question for Roshan. Roshan, you said the illegal migration has been happening since the time Manipur joined the union government in the Indian Union. By the way, India is a union of several nations, including my Tamil nation. Okay.
Sorry, John. Sorry, John. That is an attack on a sovereign nation when you say India is a union of different nations. No, only United Nations is a union of different nations. No, India is not a union of nations.
European Union or African Union.
No, India is not a union of state. India is a sovereign nation.
John,
India is a John. You have to take your words back. Sorry, John.
with due respect,
You
John,
have to take your words back on that. We cannot attack a country on this forum.
with due respect, John,
You have to apologize.
Direct attack on the nation of India. This is a direct attack on the indigenous population of India. You need to apologize. You need to take your word.
You talk about indigenous people of
Yes,
India.
indigenous population. You have called
people of India were subjugated to
India is
slavery.
a union of different nations.
That is
the
too much.
union of nations. You need to
Purnima,
take your word back.
you need to
You
go back
need
and
to
read the
apologize.
history,
There
okay?
are three things
The
you mentioned
indigenous
so
people
far.
of my
There are
people.
three things you have
The
mentioned so
indigenous,
far,
my
John.
people,
You
indigenous
have
people were
three things
subjected
you have
to
mentioned,
slavery
Crawford. You
for
have called
2,000 years. What are you
Brahminism,
talking about?
Hinduism. You have called Buddhist extremists.
Okay.
You have called India a union
Just
of
something before you come and talk in the public.
You
Okay.
need to apologize. You need to take back your
You go-
word.
John,
And
if you want to just come for the debate, just do some assignment or some homework.
apologize.
Okay, let me
You just do some
No,
homework after that. Come
John,
to the
sorry, this
debate.
forum is not for peddling lies. This forum is not for abusing other, like Buddhist extremism, and
Definitely.
so many things have come from you.
Please control.
And moreover,
Okay.
what he
So
has
let's
been narrating is like a
if
one-sided
John
narration.
if John doesn't want to put his
Okay, all right.
perspective
Just
in
don't
front, so
question.
let's
Hold
go
on.
to Purnima. Let's
No.
let's
What
conclude this.
does John want
forum.
to ask me about the illegal immigrants? I just want to listen to that question and let me respond. Okay, hold on. What does he have? What he has a specific questions for me about the illegal immigrants.
John, can you unmute yourself? Roshan wants.
You keep muting me. Why are you even? No, you're inviting me to this panel, insulting me.
No, John, you are insulting the country. You are insulting the
20
religions. You
people
are
are hanging
insulting
up
the
on you're ganging up on
ethnic group
me,
of
asking
people,
stupid questions.
and then you are yelling on the forum.
John,
That is
I'm
not
ready to
Asking
acceptable.
listen to
stupid
you.
question.
Okay,
You are
John.
just directing some stupid answers to us.
No,
That is
John,
the point.
It's idiotic.
Okay,
If you guys want to, have the same kind of people just feed on each other, go and have your own discussion.
No.
You
You just come back with some homework.
Listen to my
John,
opinion.
Respectfully, with one-sided narration.
we are
just come
here
back
to
with some
take each
homework.
other's opinions.
Don't
And
ask
what
me
is
a
the way
question
moving
and
forward?
then
You cannot
expect me to
let's
say
move
something
forward.
that you want.
Okay,
Okay.
let's
If
move
you are
forward. What
asking
is
me
your
an
question?
opinion,
Just say the
I will give you
facts
my
and the
opinion.
truth.
You can
Say
agree
the
with it, you
facts.
cannot agree with it.
Say
You don't
the
want to agree
facts
with it, it's
and
your
the truth,
problem.
John.
I don't care.
John, what is your question?
No, my question is, let me cool down. Sorry.
All right.
Russia. Now you mentioned that the illegal immigration has been happening, for the last 40, 70 years, if the math is right? The Manipur joined the union in what, 1951 or 1950, something around that.
1949.
1949. Okay. There are, there are other discussions about why it was joined. Manipur decided to join the union. It's all, we are not getting into that. Okay, that we know what we're talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. Now the question is, in 1901, I don't have any statistics to go by to see what was the population demographics in that region. Okay, in the kingdom of Manipur. Manipur used to be called something else before the 17th century, 18th century, I'm told. I don't know what that name is called. Somebody wrote it down somewhere, but I forgot. Anyway, so I don't know what it was in 1901, the demographics wise. But in 1951 census, it shows that 14% were Kuki. The Mizo, Zomi, Chin, all these 17 tribes or something, they were all together with 14%. Now, the 2011 census, 2021 did not happen. 2011 census shows 16.3 or 16.5%. There's a 2% increase. That did they? I mean, I'm honestly asking the question. Do you think, how did this discrepancy happen? Why is there only 2% increase in the statistics? Did they leave out the people from counting, or was there something else going on that I need to understand?
So let me put something into perspective. Okay, there could be, it could be many of the things that you just said, but one thing is for certain. Like if you ask, so there's this NRC and all these things being going on, and then trying to identify who were the original Kuki people or original inhabitants of Manipur.
NRC was only in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, okay, fine.
For that,
since the merger, right? Why is there a big uproar whenever we said that, okay, let's figure out who were there post 1951 and let's start counting, right? When that thing happened, there was a big pushback. Oh, no, it should be 1961. Oh, it should be 1971. Oh, it should be 1981. Why? Because they know that whoever came through after the merger, they would be found out. Because they don't want to be identified. Because see, that is a big problem. I don't have any issue.
There is a political issue there. I mean, Roshan, if you don't mind, please call me after this call. I need to really talk to you about it. But before that, 1951 statistics says 14%. Now the statistics says 16%. There is a 2% increase.
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit of a statistics. Okay, 1961. In the Kuki-dominated area of Technopole, there were 232 villages. In 2021, they counted it to be 446. That's more than double. Whereas in Imphal Valley, it was 587 and it went down to 546. Again in Churachandpur, 216 became 544. And then in Ukhrul, which is a Naga-dominated area, they have been there. The Tangkuls have been there for a while. The Ukhrul, it was 106 in 1961, and it went down to 96. They are also tribals. Even if you take out the Meiteis, the number of villages, that's like exponential growth. And there is so there is a lot of demographic. I'll tell you another statistics. There are 20 seats reserved for the tribes, right? Look at the shift. There used to be 12 Naga MLAs and 8 Kuki MLAs. Now, in the past, in a few cycles, it has become 10 and 10. So the Nagas are losing ground to Kukis. Forget about the Meiteis here. So there is something is going on somewhere that is causing this demographic shift, and is highly suspected that it's from across the border, not from internal. And that is my view about the whole thing.
I understand what you are saying.
So there is a cause, right? There are some statistics that is going on that is supporting this thing, that there is something going on. And when the state government is trying to do something, there were pushbacks. No, you cannot do that. No, you cannot identify these people as refugees. No, you cannot go and take 1951 as the cutoff date. Oh, it has to be 61, 71, 81, whatever it is.
Okay. Okay.
So there is a big pushback.
But still, Roshan, still the statistics was 14% and now 16%. That is where I'm not able to connect it. Now, the number of villages that you're talking about, and is there a possibility that some of the Meiteis have gone and settled in the Kuki areas with the permission of the chief?
We cannot. We are not
They are
allowed
not
to
allowed.
go there.
They are not
even
allowed.
They
They are
can
not
come
allowed.
down.
We are not allowed to go
So
there.
as we look
Please
at the
don't even
time, due
think
to
about that,
paucity of
please,
time, we
Mr.
have to
Gono.
wrap up. We have to wrap up. And Purnima, concluding remarks, and then I would come to Ajay, and John would put the icing on the cake in the end. Purnima.
So much, Dr. Preet. Appreciate having me over here. I'm disappointed and extremely disgusted by one of the panelists who's obviously a Christian, working on as massively anti-Hindu, anti-India agenda from United
Just call my name,
from the spot,
Purnima. That's okay.
soil
I
of
won't get
United
offended
States.
if you call me my
This is
name.
extremely difficult and disappointing from this Christian Abrahamic religious believers to stop people impose their agenda, impose their ideology in debate, in real life, in the countries. This is exactly, it's a snapshot over what's happening over here. He cannot be concise. He cannot put forth a single sentence, and he cannot bring his thoughts to ask the question or
Are you
make a
giving
point.
your final remarks to
Completely
attack me?
goes around, derails people and shames people and belittles people.
Let's move, Purnima.
You are supposed to
He
put
had,
your final
I need
remarks
30
on the
seconds,
Let's
Dr.
move,
Preet. I need
not
30
attack me.
seconds.
To the
I need 30 seconds. He had been stopping me from the constantly from beginning. He called Hindus are Brahminical Hindus. He called Buddhists an extremist. He called India a union of states. He insulted our nation. He insults Hindus. He cannot understand
that has already been discussed. Purnima, let's move
at this point of
to
time. I
what
want to say
what
this
do
is
you
not
see
Manipur
moving
issue.
forward
This is a
should be
India
the
issue.
steps to bring
National
peace to the
security
burning
issue, and it
state.
is an issue against an agenda against Hindus in India, and they want to break it off. Not just Khalistan, not just Manipur. It is entire India issue.
I know what you are doing in the US.
Moving forward,
This
what
is
would be the steps? Purnima, what
Purnima, you are
suggestions
also,
do you have? Purnima,
yeah.
what suggestions do
I
you
would
have?
like, Dr. Preet, I would like to all of the panelists as well as the listeners and future listeners to take cognizant about what the foreign countries are getting involved, how they're getting involved, whether it's the United States, in Kashmir, Khalistan, and literally they have opinion on everything that is happening in Indian territory. And on top of it, we need to understand the organization, whether it's Hindus for Human Rights, whether FIACONA, whether it's Amnesty International, whether it is IAMC, which is Indian American Indian Muslims Association or Council, etc. These guys are working cohesively with United States government as well to push agenda against Hindus and India. And I would like all of us to get an understanding of that bigger issue, that there is a Modi regime change agenda.
Thank you for bringing that out, Purnimaji, and educating the people listening on the forum how things are going.
Doing in this country then?
What's happened to
So let's
what's going to happen in the 2024 election?
this is a free world, John, and everybody has a right to choose the country if USA allows. If USA allows people to own land and to live a living, yes,
I want
they
to add
can
one
be
quick
here.
point
It's not
over here,
like a
Dr.
situation like Meitei's, where people are a situation like Manipur, where
Dr. Preet,
within
I
a same state,
even
people
allow me
are
to say
barred
what
from
I had to
owning
say.
land and living in certain
Dr.
areas.
Preet,
So
Dr.
let's
Preet,
go
I want
to
to add one quick
John.
thing over here. Just
Instead of
30
giving
seconds.
concluding remarks, she is
Dr. Preet,
attacking me.
Dr. Preet, just one quick thing I want to mention about it, because we discussed about refugee. India is not a signatory of 1951 Refugee Convention. I want to show you something quickly over here. This is a documentation. I'll send it to you. It's called Native State of Manipur. It was written in 1973 by British S.B. Brown. And the first line was something that I'd like to read for you. And it is written as in January and February 1872 during the expedition against the Lushais, Some 649 captives were rescued and 2,112 refugees. I'll read the number again. 2,112 refugees named to seek the Maharaja's protection and settle in Manipur. And these are cookies. 2,112 cookies were settled by British under the Maharajas in Manipur sovereignty in 1873. Please note this number. And today the number is all the cookies, it's over 15 lakh and they're all Christians.
I think this is, thank you. Ajay, I'll go to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
I really appreciate the opportunity and the tough moderation job that you have done, Anuji. I don't envy what you have done here today. So, I admire what you have done. In conclusion, what I would say is that follow the money, follow the ideology. For example, if, who benefits by calling Hindus as Brahminical Hindus and Buddhists as extremists? Who benefits by calling India a union of nations? Who benefits from internationalizing the Manipur conflict? Who benefits from making this a religious conflict? Who benefits from the demographic changes that have happened in Manipur? Why were the Muslims caught selling arms in Manipur? Who are funding the international organizations in America and in India to promote this particular narrative and bringing and internationalizing this issue? Are these the Chinese? Are these the ISI people? Are these the drug lords? Are these the people who are trying to promote conversions using force, fraud, and inducement or proselytization? Why do we need to recognize a community as refugees when we know that there's a concerted effort at demographic changes? Who benefits from that? Who benefits from gaslighting and demeaning the people who are on this panel and 1 billion people? Maybe the gaslighting and name calling is supporting and it's promoting a particular belief, a particular ideology. I would say that this is an issue that is a Manipuri issue. This is an issue that is an Indian issue, internal matter of India. We should let the people in India and Manipur work on this, come together and sort it out. As people who are Hindus, who live outside of India, and people who are not Hindus, who live outside of India, there is a universal prayer that I would recommend for all people on this forum and outside to kind of keep in mind. And that is Om Sahna Navatu, Sahno Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahe, Tejasvina Vadhitamastu, Om Shanti, 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 which means Om, may God protect us both or all of us. May God nourish all of us. May we all work conjointly with great energy, and may our studies be vigorous and effective, and we all work towards, and Om, let there be peace. Let there be peace in me, in my environment, and let there be peace in the forces that act on me. So let's not be wedded to hatred. Let's work on peace together.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you for bringing that prayer. The world needs it. Manipur needs it. We all need it in our life. Let everybody be happy and let there be peace everywhere. And you gave very important thoughts, important questions to ponder on. And we really have to think on those lines. Like, who's benefiting from all this chaos happening in the state? So, John, off to you. So please be my request, please be concise, and let's have some positive conclusion here without name calling. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. What I would like to say is this. This is a serious issue. I have not even come to the meat of the subject yet. And you allowed everybody to gang up on me. and stop me from getting to the facts of the problem. No, let me finish it. Don't interrupt
John,
me, please.
don't
Do not
blame.
interrupt me.
Like there has been a lot of
No,
blame
you made
blame
the
game going on,
moderator.
blaming country,
You made the
nation,
moderator.
anybody. Now the
Anju.
moderator blaming the moderator, not giving you time. You
No.
were given enough time. So as I
Okay.
said, no
You-
name
you-
calling or no blaming.
See, when I moderate panels like this, I don't let this mayhem to take over. Now you have an agenda. It's very clear.
Again,
need to respect
you
me.
say like
He's actually
mayhem
attacking you right
going
now.
on, but we
He's
don't
Okay.
understand the cause,
And
the
you
real
allowed
cause.
Purnima to say whatever she wanted to say.
Purnima, give him his time and let him finish.
Purnima need to shut up.
Well,
I
you
will not
are
tolerate
You
attacking
be
the
respectful,
moderator.
John.
You are
Respectful,
attacking the
John.
moderator.
John, you
I can
cannot
see you
be
are
direct to
extremely
people and ask
disrespectful
them
to
to
the
shut up.
opposition as
That
well.
is not
Please do
acceptable.
not talk like that.
You should be respectful. Do not
You are extremely
ever
disrespectful. You are
talk to me
No,
like
we
that.
have to
moderator.
behave
Okay?
as
You
a
are actually
civilized.
attacking the moderator.
John, we need to be
I cannot
civilized and
stop.
don't call
I cannot
anybody,
sit here and
everybody
watch you
names, be it the
attack the
moderator or the
moderator of this
panelist or the
forum.
country or the religion. John,
And
it
I'm
has
not
been
sitting
really
here for
too
you to
much.
abuse me either.
John, there has been lot
Okay.
lot
To
of
behave in
blame
public,
game
do
going
not
on
come on the
this
please. You
forum.
take an advice from me. Do not come in public forums, okay? And
John, do you have
these kinds of
do you have
if
any
you really
kind of
want to push a
food for
particular
thought?
agenda, you should find the people
There's
who are going to adhere to that kind of a particular agenda. You ask me to say what I want, what I think is my opinion on Manipur. I'm going to talk about what I think. If you don't know
but
how to take it,
within the time frame, John, within the time frame that, and you were given ample time. We have limitation. We have limitations.
All right,
Okay.
let's give
All
John without interruption, please.
Yes, John, please.
Unmute yourself, John. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Naji, can you please unmute him?
Go. Unmute yourself, John. John. Okay, can
Can
somebody...
you unmute
Right.
John?
I'm
Yes.
benefits and all those things. Issue here is we have a very grave situation in Manipur. People are suffering. People have lost their life. People have lost their homes. And we need to find a way to address what is the real problem instead of just talking grandiose ideas about, who converted who and when, all those things. If you really wanted to talk about who converted who, then you have to
John,
see.
stick to the point. Stick to the point. Not we are not
I'm
discussing.
talking to the point.
Yes.
If we're talking about Meiteis were converted, when the Meiteis were converted, Meiteis were converted to Hinduism. That is a fact. There's sacred books were burned.
Issue is not Meitei conversion.
No,
Issue
so the
is
issue
like
is
Manipur
Christian
is
conversion for
burning.
you, is it?
What
No?
can we do?
Conversion of
What can we
Meiteis to
suggest?
Hinduism is not an issue. But only it becomes an issue only when they convert to Christianity.
No, John. Again, you are bringing the same thing back towards the last 2-3
Okay.
minutes. What
You
you
all
have been doing throughout the
You all
forum.
have a great day. Mr. Roshan, please give me a call. Thank you. Okay.
Hold on, John. Okay.
Sorry about that. He had to go because unfortunately we do not have that much time. We are already 1 hour over into the webinar, and at this time, if anybody has,
I'll just make some closing remarks. I mean, I'll take a very selfish view of this this conflict because it is very close to me and to many
sure,
other.
Roshan, I would have been coming to you after John, and you are the last one, so we'll conclude the webinar after his remarks.
Yes. So my as I said, I'm going to be a little bit selfish in the sense that Manipur is my native state, and I am really troubled by what's happening in the state. The initial mob violence ended within the few days of May the 3rd. But what is troubling is the fact that there is armed conflict, exchange of fire almost every day. And that needs to be stopped. And my recommendation is that, the Indian government, both the state and the central, focus on the disarmament of the two parties so that peace can prevail at the end, democratic talks can start, and healing can happen, because a lot of people has suffered. And that is my final thought. We can talk about all the other things in a different discussion, but for immediately, the violence needs to stop and peace needs to prevail as soon as possible, so that healing can start.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a lot is expected from the government at this time, and they have been doing since May 3rd, like supplies have been maintained, even though there is like just a single road after so many years of independence. The previous governments probably failed to develop the infrastructures in the Northeast states so that to control the situation. So there has been a continuous flow of supplies, and the Assam Rifles have been taking care of that. People have been evacuated from the houses, about 50,000. That prevented more and more deaths. Although this is a very big crisis, about 150 people died. Although due to all these conflicts, around 8,000 people died in the past 9 years before the BJP government. But the government has really arduous tasks to go to, and to do a peace building, trust building in this wonderful, beautiful land where Meiteis, Cookies, and everybody have been living very peacefully, although there have been insurgencies at different levels. So the government really need to take care of that, is my personal opinion. And we have John here. John, do you want to give your...
Let me quickly say, I dialed in back for the respect that I have for my friend, Mr. Tiwari. Okay?
Appreciate it.
And your technical person sent me a message, please dial in back.
Yeah, that's me. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. I'm, but I do not appreciate the way you handled your panels or the panelists who were uncontrolled accusations, unfounded accusations on me. Okay, I do not appreciate it. You need to, you guys have to really have some people who work in policy issues to come on panels if you want to talk about policy. You want political show, like that guy in Bombay who has a TV show. You can have a
John, sorry again. John, sorry again, but you are again going to the same route. When you say like unfounded accusations. I don't want to be a part of
theatrics. So you want to have a particular idea, particular agenda.
No, it's not about a particular idea. You can go back to the webinar and you can go like there have been things said by you throughout the forum, and you are again saying unfounded accusations, which is really not acceptable, John.
No.
And again, you're blaming that I did not moderate the panel well. So that is again
when you are
accusation.
inviting me to express my opinion,
yes, only
should have
don't blame.
The common courtesy to understand, at least to listen to me before you start asking me a question. You have a disagreement with what I said. You ask me the question. I will reply why I have a different opinion than what you believe in. Don't gang up on me and accuse me and abuse me. That I will not. Ever.
It's not about accusing and abusing, John. We have been I've been trying to go back to you.
If anyone is abusing anyone, it's you, John. You've been
don't blame anybody.
You're the one who's calling, asking women to shut up.
Let's move forward.
Have some shame.
Whosoever
Are you
is
telling
it,
women to
please
shut
hold your
up
guns
in a public forum?
Yeah. So
John, do you have thank you for joining, John, and do you have your recommendations or way moving forward how the situation can be improved on land in Manipur?
I have lots of recommendations, Anju. This is not the forum to discuss this. We will discuss it, and if you are really serious about it, we can discuss it another time. This is not with a couple of your panelists on this panel. I would not want to be part of this. Okay.
Let's have a physical meeting. Let's have a physical meeting.
We'll have a discussion. Maybe it's a very serious issue.
It is very
know?
serious issue. It is
Yeah.
very serious.
Let's
Given
not-
the
let's not bring
critical
politics
position,
into it. Let's
given
not
the
bring
critical,
dogmas
given
into
the
it.
critical position Manipur holds in the Indian border, Indian territory, this is very critical for India. Not only for Manipur, it is very critical for the whole
Do
India.
not bring politics
That,
into it.
that can be a route for destabilization. Why not? That is part of India, Manipur. And
It's
it
outside
shares
of, no,
border with
people's lives are at stake.
it
Okay.
shares border with Myanmar, which itself is coming to be a failed state.
Okay, let's
There is-
conclude. Let's
Okay.
conclude it so we can have another session. Maybe. we
Thank
can
you,
have
everybody.
physical meeting.
Thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar. And as we see, the situation on ground is very grim, and government is taking care of it. And hopefully, people have the terrorists, they have surrendered some arms, and people can, and the government can work towards disarming them and securing borders and controlling the drug flow and where the money is coming. And let's pray for peace in Manipur. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Anuji, thank you very much. Great job.
Thank
Not
you.
easy.
We can stop the recording there and the live. Ravi,
Otherwise, yeah, otherwise we can
Okay.
close it.
I got to run,
Thank
but
you.
I just wanted to thank
Recording
you for
stopped.
doing all you did. It was not an
Yeah,
easy
record
job.
is stopped.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
it might go live. We don't know.
Yes, yes. So
So let's stop it
thank
and
you,
we can
everybody.
have other
Yeah.
session.
Okay.
Namaste.
Bye.